Welcome to another edition of the All 32 Pod. Mike Giardi here, Will Parkinson there. Pleased to have you with us here on Friday, March 14th. We're taping this at 11:10 in the a.m. I thought we would take a big look at the first week of free agency. Winners and losers. Could be teams, could be players, could be position groups. We'll get into that here, Will. But first, a reminder, show brought to you by Prizepicks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. They are awesome. I was on a heater. Now I'm not, but I feel like it's going to turn around today. Will, let's get right to you. Let's start positive, right? Let's bring joy to the world. Give me a winner.
I'm going to go, this is a crazy one, Mike. Aaron Rodgers is a winner.
Oh!
Aaron Rodgers is a winner because after the last 36 months he's had, having experienced it firsthand from – unfortunately, the way the 2022 season ended after back-to-back MVPs, and they all of a sudden Rodgers looks bad at the beginning of the year, and he figures it out, and like they're rolling. All they got to do is beat Detroit, who was also rolling, who was eliminated at home. Sunday Night Football, Rodgers plays one of the worst games he's played in a big moment in a long time. I know Rodgers gets a lot of heat for the big moment and stuff. You actually look at the games, he actually has been really good. That was not one of those games. Gets traded to the Jets. It's a whole big thing. We all obviously remember the Achilles. It's all over from there, the hype of this year and the whole thing. The reason I say that is it felt like at the end of the year, they were going to cut him and he was going to retire, or maybe he'd have one or two faint options, essentially, right? It was going to be like, does someone talk themselves into it? The Rams, if Stafford left, or there was just some little inklings of what it could be. He's got a full-on – I mean, this guy's like a hot shot in a club. I mean, it's unbelievable. Every 10 wants him, and every 2 wants him. It's unbelievable. I mean, the Steelers and Vikings are both – seem to be good situations. The Vikings, if you believe all the reporting, are like talking themselves into this thing, which if you're a Jets fan, that's a great thing because in 2009, 2010, after Favre did the same thing, the Jets actually were good for once. And if you're a Patriots fan, that means you're getting close to getting back to being a dynasty. Like a lot of good things start to roll here if history repeats itself. But again, I'm half joking, but in reality, like I didn't foresee him holding up the entire quarterback market and the whole free agency in a lot of ways. This second wave that's going to happen, it's hard to really happen when the Steelers aren't going to start making moves until they know who their quarterback is. Rodgers is holding up Russell Wilson, and he's holding up Carson Wentz. And like that, those are ones don't really matter quite as much. But then it starts to go, okay, now what's it mean for the draft, right? If Pittsburgh misses on Rodgers, does this impact Shedeur Sanders? Do they start to try to trade up? Are they a Jackson Dart team? It really starts to if the Giants miss on Rodgers, and they could potentially miss on Russ, right? Because Rodgers could go to Minnesota, Russ back to the Steelers. The Giants surely are not starting Joe Flacco next year, which means they're going to have to start trading up. Instead of the 2 3s that we heard, maybe rumored to go up to 1, they have to give up a future 1. Is Tennessee hold? And then how does Tennessee benefit? My whole point of this way too long of a Rodgers conversation is biggest winner because now the attention's on him. It's all about Rodgers and him in the blanket on the beach with the cord headphones because he doesn't want all this different thing. It's crazy we're here and it's only March 14th. I thought we were going to have this conversation maybe in like 2 or 3 months when someone gets hurt in OTAs.
Yeah, no, that's 3 teams all waiting on Aaron Rodgers. And then, as you mentioned, the trickle-down effect. I'll give you a quick loser then off of that. It's the New York Giants. How does Joe Schoen, the general manager, and Brian Daboll, the head coach, go into a season in which the owner has already said, you're on the hot seat? I'm expecting playoff-ish type football. How do you become a playoff football team if your best option right now is Aaron Rodgers, who hasn't proven the last couple of years that he's durable enough or consistent enough to get you there? And then the fallout, as you mentioned, it's Russell Wilson. Can't really play. Joe Flacco definitely can't play. Then that puts you into are you taking Shedeur Sanders at number 3 overall, which still, no matter who you talk to, feels too rich for Shedeur Sanders. But as we know, quarterbacks get overdrafted, and they may have no choice but to do such a thing. That's it. That's all the time I'm going to spend on them. Let me give you a winner. Specific group here. The Patriots defense is a winner here because 2 years ago, they were 9th in DVOA. And I think those numbers are a little bit inflated. And I thought against some of the better teams, they didn't show that type of play. but in general, a good competitive defense. Last year, a massive step back. Bottom 3. Can't get to the quarterback. Can't stop the run. Can't stop the pass. They go out and they sign Milton Williams, who, again, never been a full-time player, but he's a good football player who seems to be on the right trajectory, right? Like, this could be one of those signings that you actually sign a potential Pro Bowl player. 25, going to be 26 next year. Carlton Davis. Is it an overpay? 100% an overpay. However, you now have Christian Gonzalez on one side, really good football player, and you have Carlton Davis, when healthy, good football player on the other side. You just made your secondary better. Robert Spillane at linebacker. Again, not their first choice. We talked about it. Jamie Sherwood would have been their first choice. The next best guy they thought on the market was Robert Spillane. They go get Robert Spillane. Good football player. Again, 29, so you're probably buying at the peak of his powers, and it might be on the other side right after this. But if you get one good season out of him, based again on what you had last year, all of a sudden now you have the kind of defense that we can talk about as a top 12-ish defense if everything stays right. And if Barmore's healthy, which again is a huge if, like maybe even better than that. So from a defensive perspective, the New England Patriots are getting back to being the type of team that can win some games on that side of the ball, and that has not happened over the last couple seasons. So that is a win for the New England Patriots. What do you got next for me?
This is going to be a weird one. Okay. This is going to be a weird one. I think Washington's a loser so far. I don't like at all what they've done. In name value, sure. I like it a lot, right? Tunsil and Debo, and it's like, dude, the all-pro team from 3 years ago is absolutely cooking. Having experienced and just gone through this with the Jets, doesn't always work that way. And here's my main concern if I'm a Washington fan. You built this the right way last year. And I'm not saying that Tunsil won't be awesome this year, but they gave up a lot for Tunsil, and they got to pay him. Gave up a lot for Debo, in my opinion. I think anything was too much to give up for Debo because he was going to get cut if,
That's how I felt.
I get there. You want to jump the market and be able to say, we have the rights to him, et cetera. San Francisco and Houston have been two of the better organizations, in my opinion, over the last couple of years at evaluating talent, making the most out of nothing. They have the medicals on these guys. Mm-hmm. If Houston's trading Tunsil, that we talked about this a little bit, that tells me more that they think he's getting close to being done. They might be totally wrong. Perfectly opportunity. Like, they could be totally wrong. But I don't know, why would they move the one guy in their own line that actually you would have wanted to keep? Right? That's just a red flag to me automatically. Mm-hmm. Whenever I see that, I've watched too many Patriots. Cassari's a Patriots guy. Bill was always a year or two early before a year too late. It just makes me think they think past 12 months this might start to fall apart. And the Debo thing, I'm not saying it's a bad move in terms of it's low risk. It's just, I don't know if I feel like you could have committed and tried to be in a different market. I would have preferred Christian Kirk or someone else that's like that would have cost similar pick. But age-wise, Christian Kirk could have been there a couple of years, mm-hmm. and maybe he grows with Jaden Daniels, and it's him and Terry, and you draft somebody, and it's we had a nice trio here. And again, they have the opportunity to add Trey Hendrickson or, whatever. That they could still do that for sure, and it would change my opinion. I just feel like they got close enough that they almost rushed it to where they're in win now mode, and I'm all good with spending if you have the resources, and for them, they don't have to pay their quarterback for a long time that we know is awesome. Like I said, I feel like they rush it with guys that I don't know. I didn't love it.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And the other part that we sort of always seem to gloss over is it doesn't necessarily mean because you just had this great year that now you're building on it. Because now all of a sudden, and it started to happen later in the season, but now all of a sudden you have the target on you. And the expectations have changed, and there's a lot more pressure on that program. You made it to the NFC Championship last year. You added Laramie Tunsil, Debo Samuel, et cetera. Shouldn't you be back there again at the very least? So there's more heat on that entire operation to do this. I'll give you my next one. We'll stick with the loser theme. We'll stick right again with the team in my backyard. The Patriots offense gets the L right now. And I know, again, we're taping this March 14th. I know there is more in free agency. There are some other big-name receivers out there on the wrong side of 30, but big-name receivers out there. There's the draft in 6 weeks. That's another part of it, but we have a show to do today. And as of today, Patriots offense takes the L. They went into this thing desperately needing a left tackle and a wide receiver. Probably needed two, but like, okay, give me one. Give me one upper echelon wide receiver, a one or a two. They throw a barrel of money at Chris Godwin. He doesn't leave Tampa. There's nothing you could do about that. I mean, the between $28 to $30 million for Chris Godwin a year is crazy money, which is not where they wanted to go, but they were willing to go there. Still couldn't get him to leave Tampa. Ronnie Stanley doesn't get out of Baltimore. Decides, okay, for the price, for what I want to do, for where I want my career to go, Kansas City was an attractive option, but I'm going to stay in Baltimore. And he got paid. I mean, could have got more in the open market. I'm sure the Patriots were willing to give him more, but he stays. And then they pivot. Dan Moore, they were in on. Dan Moore signs with Tennessee for stupid money. Jalen Moore in Kansas City. He signs for stupid money, although less stupid than Dan Moore's money. But it's only started 5 or 6 games in his career, right? They pivot on the offensive line, too. They look at Patrick McCarry, who signs with Jacksonville. They look at Will Fries, however he says it. He signs with Minnesota. They look at Drew Dahlman at center, which was a word coming out of the combine, that center was a low-key need. And it turned into a big key need when they decided to release David Andrews, who at 32, like there's some concerns about whether he can play and the shoulders rolled up, but now they've created another spot. They couldn't get any of those guys. They're not interested, it appears, in talking to people with Cam Robinson, whose market is very cool because it's not just a health thing or an inconsistent performance thing. It's some off the field stuff, football character, etc. So here we are again on Friday, March 14th. They don't have a number one receiver. They don't have a number two receiver. They don't have a left tackle. They don't have a center now. They kind of don't have a left guard either. So Drake May, I don't know what to say right now, buddy. You better hope that they just crush the draft, or somebody whose name we haven't talked about, a receiver, or not that it ever happens, a left tackle who's actually good becomes available. Because right now, these guys all have flaws. These all have warts. And your team, from an offensive line perspective in particular, but from an outside weapons perspective as well, is exactly where it was last year in a giant state of flux. What do you got next?
No, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think the Patriots had some nice pieces on defense that's going to raise the floor tremendously. Offensively, I don't, not really sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. I'm not sure of the plan yet until we see what happens. But they really should be a trade back team. The more I think about it, because they need a lot, and like this does have a really deep draft of tight ends and receivers and running backs and day 2 and day 3 that they could really use. But also, can they afford to trade back too far and they miss out on the tackles and the whole thing? And I wouldn't take Ted at 4. I think we've covered that quite evidently.
Yeah.
In terms of, I'll go winner here. I think my winner is Jamar Chase, Michael Parsons, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Derek Stingley, Sauce Gardner, like any of these guys up for extensions, the mega extensions that we're talking about. Cleveland, yet again, ruins the market because this is what they do. They give out ridiculous contracts to guys that don't really have any leverage. Yeah. Myles Garrett had no leverage. Like everyone can, he's going to sit out games. Who cares, dude? Myles Garrett could have sat out a million games. He's a 29-year-old edge rusher for a team that's going to win 3 games next year. Like, it doesn't matter. He's a franchise cornerstone. I love Myles Garrett. It has nothing to do with Myles Garrett. But he had no leverage. He had years left on this deal. The Browns could have just sat there and said, sucks, man. Right. I'm like, dude,
here comes the fines, which
we weren't even in like mid-March yet. And when they were like, yeah, we caved. Here's 40. And it's like, oh, okay. So now Mike is going to want 41. And I wouldn't pay Micah Parsons 41, but whatever. He's going to want that. And Jamar Chase wants to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Well, guess what? He wants 41 million or 40 and a half, whatever it is. And DK signs a new deal, which means Garrett Wilson's going to want just as much as him. And JC Horn signing a new deal means Derek Stingley is going to want more than him, right? He was going to want 4 for 100. Well, guess what? Now he wants 4 for 105. You know what I mean? Like, this is what happens. So it happens every year, but those are some guys, to me, I'll keep this one short of just these teams were not proactive with their own guys. And, you know, the Bengals, I don't know how they're, and we've talked about this so many times, but is it even a good business move to give $75 million to one position group that's not a quarterback and doesn't like affect the ball on every single play, like an edge rusher or a tackle? I know I keep going back and forth. Like, are they really just better off investing in Jamar, getting an extra pick, and then taking a receiver in round 2 and having Chase, Yoshivas, and a second round, and Jaden Higgins in round 2
Right.
to, and like whatever. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, your point is a good one too, because when Cincinnati built this thing up, and granted they had some luck in building it up in that Burrow's first year he gets hurt, and they probably weren't going to be a top 5 team. Not that they're probably going to be like the 10th overall pick, but they end up with 5, and then they get Jamar Chase. So all of a sudden, because of the injury to Burrow, they get Chase, and then the thing just explodes from there, right? But they did a real nice job of drafting players in that period, which for a team that doesn't like to spend big money in free agency, that's huge. And now their draft has taken a step back. And to me, if they're going to get it back on the right track, more picks, more hits in the draft, and probably is wise to separate from T. Higgins. And by the way, there's quickly on the Trey Hendrickson thing, Diana Rossini reported that their ask for Hendrickson, teams are willing to pay Hendrickson what he wants, but the price tag for him in terms of capital that they want is, I think you use the word ridiculous, which seems to be going around a lot these days. Let's hear from Prizepicks because we love them. They're a great supporter of ours. Best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in award winnings. Prizepicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players and up to 6 for a shot at 1,000 times your cash. On Prizepicks, you can mix and match player projections for different sports. Combine your favorite basketball players with ones from baseball, because yes, that season's coming up real soon, although maybe not for the Yankees because everybody's hurt, hockey, etc. You can do that. Download the app today. Very simple. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prizepicks. Run your game. I'll give you a winner because, I'm just full of positivity today. Caleb Williams.
Yep.
And I don't know that necessarily they got the best players in front of them, but Ben Johnson looked at their offensive line as he inherited this football team and said, my quarterback's a little bit on the smaller side. I need to protect him from the inside out. So he goes out and trades for Joe Thuney, a future 4th. And he's in the last year of his deal. He's 32 years old, although interior guys tend to hold up a little bit better than the guys on the outside. They trade for Jonah Jackson from the Rams, who's had a problem staying healthy, but up until last year when he's been on the field, been a pretty good player. And again, previously came from Detroit before he went to L.A., so Johnson has familiarity with him. And then they go spend the second most money ever for a free agent center and Drew Dahlman. Again, we can quibble with whether or not Drew Dahlman is that kind of player, but they felt like it's a better player than they had before. So now all of a sudden, okay, last year was the add the weapons thing. That didn't necessarily work great. Keenan Allen kind of washed, bullied him a little bit as well. Caleb Williams, that is. And now you're saying, okay, we feel a lot better about our protection. And you're already hearing guys like I'm on Ross St. Brown. It's like, a little leery what's going on in Chicago. And look, Chicago has a long way to go before they get to Detroit's level, but this is a good thing for Caleb Williams. Now, again, you've got Roma Dunze, you've got DJ Moore, you've got Cole Kmet. Now you've beefed up the interior of the offensive line. Darnell Wright's one of your tackles. Like, okay, buddy, you're 2. Time to make a jump.
Yeah, the Bears they put themselves in a good spot, and they could, go Will Johnson or Genty or one of these guys at 10, or maybe they go tackle and just say, like, screw it, let's just keep going. I will say, like, no, you know what? I would agree with you. I think they've done the necessary things. They've invested in the trenches. Amon-Ra St. Brown complaining about money. You just signed a mega extension. No one told you to do that. So if you can't be like, hey, players, go get your bag. And then you confuse. Jared Goff's getting paid now. That's why you have less money. And you're getting paid now, which is why you have less money. And eventually Aiden Hutchinson. And like, I always thoroughly enjoy, like, do you not want your offensive line? Because guess what the Bears are doing? The same thing the Lions did 3 years ago. There's love Amon-Ra St. Brown, great podcast, but like, the reason why the Bears have money is because they have a rookie quarterback and they had no talent on their roster. So they have no one to pay. When you have no one to pay, you have money.
Yeah. It's a simple connection to be made there.
It's not that it's whatever. I'm going to go with a winner here. And you talked about them being a loser overall, and I agree the Giants are. I will go they're a winner is their defense should be drastically improved.
Yep.
And if things work out the way they want and they get Aaron Rodgers, do they take Travis Hunter? And then it's, they're really in a good spot. And to me, like, they're not a perfect team by any means. But they've done a really good job investing in all three levels. And theoretically speaking, on paper, probably when the weather's a little warmer for Javon Holland, but they should not be a train wreck on defense. They should be a really solid group, similar to the group they had a couple years ago that went 9-8 and they're 9-7-1. And can they have Rodgers and Neighbors kind of be, produce a couple big moments a game and run Tyrone Tracy? Like, until they get a quarterback, they're a loser. But they have done things that not necessarily, like, it's overcompensating for sure for what's going on. It's always a little worrisome. Just on paper, the Giants have done a really good job of their defense should be really good on paper. Again, I emphasize on paper because Kayvon Thibodeau is better on paper than he is in real life, and so is Brian Burns, and so is Javon Holland. So, I like the Newman and Phillips and these guys and Tracy last year, and Neighbors was a really good rookie class. Daboll was a coach of the year, so you would assume it's in there somewhere, and Rodgers looked better at the end of the year, so you would assume maybe it's got, I just don't know what to make of them overall, but I would say they're a winner, at least as of right now. They did add a lot of talent and top end talent at that. Paulson Adebo as well.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And I actually, in my notes of loser, there was a little star that I didn't talk about, but exactly what you said. They did add some pieces on defense that should make them better. The void at quarterback is massive for a team that is under the sort of win now premise. I'll give you a winner. How about mid? I think the kids still use the word mid, right? Mid wide receivers.
Skyline Chili.
Yeah. Darius Slayton, 3 years and $36 million. De'Ami Brown, 1 year, $10 million, could be up to 12 from Jacksonville. Josh Palmer, 3 and 36 from the Bills. Even Mike Williams, face it, he's probably cashed. He just got $6 million from the Chargers. So you want to talk about a position group that went into this thing where there wasn't much available unless you wanted the old guys with question marks like Cooper and Diggs and the injury stuff. Those guys benefited dramatically. That's all I got to say. All of those guys are not going to be worth the money they're getting paid, but I understand why they got it paid. It's a good market for it. Some teams had needs, and they capitalized.
I will say, I'm going to go another winner here. I think I have one more winner, two more losers, but one more winner. So another one that's more of a forecasting a position group, the offensive linemen in the draft. This always happens, and the round one guys and the fringe round one guys get pushed up. We know that. I felt like going into this process, there was one true left tackle, one or two true left tackles. There's only a few true tackles in this class that were first round guys, if even a few. Patriots, the Jets, the Bears, it's Jaguars. It starts to the Bengals, I would argue, still need to tackle. There's a million other teams, but the point being the Chiefs. But the point being, these guys are all going to get pushed up now. I wouldn't take Will Campbell in the top 10 because unless I'm a ready-made team, which you're not a ready-made team if you're picking the top 10, and you can plug him at guard or whatever, but his stance and the whole thing, I know Greg did the whole thing on that and everything, but Membu's going to be a top 10 pick. Maybe he falls to 11 as his floor. Will Campbell's going to be a top 11 pick. There's a chance Kelvin Banks works his way in the top 11 because that's just what happens. And because these teams, that guys move and whatever. But the Steelers now need at least one tackle, right? And if they get Rodgers, you can't just sit there and not protect him. Right. You'll play 4 games. So I just think, again, it's one of those groups where because the way free agency played out, guys didn't re-sign or guys moved, right? If the Jets re-signed Morgan Moses, they're not going to take a tackle at 7 likely. But now tackle's very much on the table. They played Chuks Okorafor for 17 games? Maybe, but he quit last year and 6 plays in. So I don't know if that's really an option. Or, if you're the Patriots and you had signed Dan Moore and Morgan Moses, do you say, maybe we'll pass and we'll go round 2 and we'll take Gray Zabel at 34 and maybe he's a guard, maybe he's a center, I don't know. But we'll go Travis Hunter. You know what I mean? I think the way this worked out, a lot of these guys moved and left, which left gaping holes for teams that were already borderline going to be in that mix for a tackle in the first round.
Yeah, I I like it. I hate to do this to you. Loser,
Go for it.
the New York Football Jets. I I am perplexed by what is happening there. And I saw Zach Rosenblatt wrote a thing where, hey, maybe this is a good thing that the Jets aren't the winners of the offseason. I don't really see a lot of players that can impact what they're trying to do. Retaining Sherwood was a smart thing to do. They've obviously, as we talked about, they've got to figure something out with Quincy Williams, because I think that's probably headed for a holdout if they don't do something there. Brandon Stevens,
You
not
tell me Xavier
exactly.
Gibson's not a wide receiver too in this league?
Yeah, it's a little shocking to me. Their approach. I thought there would at least be a couple of impact like ads. And I suppose Brandon Stevens, if, as you mentioned on the last show, if it's the 2023 tape versus the 2024 tape, if he's that guy versus what we saw last year, then okay, you've got somebody opposite Sauce. Although I did see you tweet about how he's listed as a safety currently, which is interesting.
So if he had played safety, if this was a safety contract and he was going to play safety, I'd like the move better because he is a great athlete and he does tackle well and he is rangy and he doesn't find the ball well, his ball skills, but he's not great in man. But if he's going to play that deep third, deep quarter zone, like he might be pretty good. He's played there early in his career. I know Kyle Van Noy talked about him being able to play both. And it's like, hey, him and Cisco is actually a really good duo back there. And Cisco actually probably a little bit better if he plays a little closer to the line of scrimmage. I know he has a lot of like impact interceptions, but he gambles a lot. So maybe he's better closer to the line of scrimmage, big dude. And that's their Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Not saying that's the same level, but my point being like Glenn gets his duo.
The vision, right?
That's the vision. They have Stiggers, Jarek Bernard Converse, both those guys played well in camp last year. They'll fight it out and like they'll get double team help and Sauce will be on an island and like they all make sense. To your point with that, I think a lot of people have talked about the comp pick stuff. The Jets have never had a comp pick, which is absolutely insane. But it also shows you if you have bad talent in your roster, you have to go sign on the free agent market. So whatever. It's like, hey, the Yankees rarely ever have their first round. It's like, well, yeah. Whatever. That's the way price. Yeah. But if they're going to approach things that way, unless I'm misunderstanding the cap side of it wrong, then just take all the Mosley and Rodgers money now and like just eat it, and Lazard, and take all of the dead money and like rack up the $80 million bill it's going to end up being throughout. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like they're kind of, maybe I'm wrong and it's only March 14th, something they could be saving money to go trade for people, or we're going to build through the draft and we're going to do extensions. And like, that's important. They need to extend Garrett and Sauce and these other guys for sure. But if you keep saying though, they want to be Bill Parcells and we're not going to speak to the media, and they didn't make a single player available, by the way, free agent sign. They signed a new starting quarterback and whatever.
Right.
No media. We're intense. We're doing the Belichick Parcells thing. I don't answer questions to you. And that's fine. I get it. Like that's the totally opposite of what you just went through with Saleh. We're a win now team. Okay. Like J2 Fele is not a win now player. Like I love USC, but the dude is a borderline rosterable guy. And like, that's like, I don't know. I'm a little, they feel a little half in, half out right now, where it's like, we want to build through the draft.
I think that's a great way to describe it. Because
everyone wants to build through the effing draft, Mike. That's the thing. Right. It's a really crazy thing. Like everyone wants to build through the damn draft. You also need other players. And I'm not saying again, but like, you're telling me, like, again, I'm not crashing out over Nick Westbrook-Akine, but like, I don't know, you got $4 million or whatever it was from Miami, like could have gone to 6 and said, hey, like we need something opposite Garrett. And yeah, sure, you get Tyler Warren and you have a great draft. No one will care. But I'm just a little, it's like being obsessed with comp picks is cool. And I get the want to have the extra 4th rounder next year. I don't know. I'm just a little, I'm just a little unsure of the vision until they're a team that I have no idea how we're going to grade it until we get to camp.
Yeah. It's again, the word that comes to mind is
they're half in, half out. They are a little bit,
perplexing. I'm gonna finish with this, and this happened last night, and I've got to find it here on my phone, so bear with me for 1 second. But the winner of free agency is America. Say, Giardi, what are you talking about? Is this a political statement? Oh, no, no. No, this isn't a political statement, folks. This is the tweet beef between Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence that took over the internet last night. I took the Jon Stewart Twitter eating the popcorn. So DeMarcus Lawrence leaves Dallas, 32 years old, signed a 3-year contract with Seattle, whatever, 3 years. It's probably a 1-year deal when all comes out. But he said, Dallas is my home. This is Lawrence. But I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there. Okay. Shot fired. Micah Parsons quote tweets it. This what rejection and envy look like! Exclamation point. This some clown bleep with the clown face. To which DeMarcus Lawrence responds on Twitter, calling me a clown won't change the fact that I told the truth. Maybe if you spent less time tweeting and more time winning, I wouldn't have left.
Hell yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence.
I love it. And you have been while appreciating the incredible talent that is Micah Parsons, phenomenal player, you have had concerns all along about the type of dude he is and what he really is focused on. And this was just another example, sort of speaking to what you've been talking about, and also speaking to, in general, the view of the Dallas Cowboys here in the last 12 months, when, remember, it was at this time last year that Jerry Jones said, we're all in. And then they proceed to do nothing in free agency and dick around with CeeDee Lamb's contract until the very last minute before they get that done. And then, of course, Dak gets hurt, season goes in the tank. And now here they are again doing absolutely nothing in free agency. I think the big signing today was Miles Sanders at running back. So, and yes, they have to pay Parsons.
They signed Javonte too. Come on.
Excellent point. When you're, I think, $3 million, so $9 million between those two backs. The Dallas Cowboys have not won a damn thing in like 30 years. And DeMarcus Lawrence is right. They're in trouble.
They are. I would still trade Micah. This is a weird comp, and I know people are going to get mad about this, and especially my brothers, but Micah's they're not the same at all, and it's a very different, it's very different, but just hear me out on this. Like a little JJ Wattish in Houston, and again, just hear me out on this. Like a lot's for the cameras. It's a lot of like kind of corny, and JJ was a little bit more corny. I don't know if it was harmless, but it was like, it's like I'm Mr. Selfless, but like reality, like I can't not wait to get
look at me.
Look at me. And Micah's like a lot of like, I'm about the team, but like you're leaving the field at the end of games before games are over. You can't wait to go on a podcast with every other guy you're playing against. Like, oh my God, please come on my team, bro. And it's like a lot of like that behavior, which is like fine, whatever. I get that people have podcasts and whatever. We're on a effing podcast, right? So I get it. But like Micah at the end of years is always, it feels like he's always banged up. And it's like he comes out to these hot starts and he's like 10 sacks in 6 weeks. And then he ends with 18. And again, 18 sacks is damn
all day, every day. Yep.
But like, is Micah like the most well-liked guy in that locker room? Or is he like the most well-liked guy at Penn State? Not so sure that's the case. No. Or the most coachable. So I don't know if I want to, like where they're at. I don't know if I want to pay Micah Parsons $41 million. Because someone's going to. And he's the guy that some teams are going to go, here's 2 first-round picks and whatever. And maybe Dallas, like they've been a really good drafting team. So maybe that's their strategy. Is they're kind of just like they change a little bit, again, like maybe they're like the Red Sox who kind of like don't want to spend the top of the market every year. Now they want to actually have a farm system and do these things. And it's like, we're going to pay the top couple of guys and then everybody else is going to be $10 million or below, whatever. I'm just trying to find examples. And again, I'm not saying JJ wasn't a great player and Houston couldn't have won, but like Houston was always out in the wild card round every year. And it's like Dallas is always out in the wild card round every year. And I don't know, like you almost get to a point where maybe capitalize now because Jerry clearly doesn't want to pay these guys. Like, let's be honest. He just doesn't. And free agency doesn't appeal to him, which is funny based on how he was good. They drafted, developed, and signed guys. But yeah, I don't know. It's a fun beef. DeMarcus Lawrence is right.
Yeah, I just think that Dallas and Cleveland are sort of in the same boat in the sense of the money. And look, Garrett's, I think, 4 years older than Micah is. But it's the same. At least Garrett To me, you've never gotten the vibe that Garrett's not a good teammate, not well liked, doesn't like
Yeah,
floats.
that's smashing my Mason Rudolph for the helmet.
Right. He gives max effort, and the game matters to him.
Well, him and
But if
Crosby
I
are a little more similar.
if I was Cleveland, I would have traded him. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
Like, you just need to start your rebuild, dude. What you did with the quarterback position wrecked you. Just okay, eat it for another year or two. Hit that contract, but go sell him off for draft picks, couple first, whatever it may be, and move on. They chose not to do that. I wonder if Dallas would be in the same sort of position where, hey, maybe you can get 2 firsts and a third, or I don't know what the
Does like
haul would
Gary
be.
not love Micah because he's on camera 24/7? It's all about the cowboy, and it's like, again, is
He
your heart
might. I
in
mean,
place? I don't know. What does he find him annoying? Because like I feel like a lot of people are like, build your super team 11, CJ Stroud. Like it's like,
Jerry's the
oh,
strange guy. I have questions about what Jerry's ultimate goal is, other than making money, which he makes hand over fist. Why don't you end us off? What do you got for a last one? Winner, loser?
I'm gonna go. Do I want to? I have two here. Should we stay positive here?
I
Yeah,
mean,
it's like
I feel like we've been pretty balanced here.
I'm gonna go just a overall concept here, and I think it's a win for the players that the amount of AAV money that's being handed out, right? Like I think the numbers have been astronomical for some of these positions, and we talked about that. But I think the loser in the same sense is the players, because I think they are chasing what these agents are chasing. We talked about this a million times. They're chasing highest average annual value and total dollars on the contract, right? And we see it as reported by every agency every time there's a news break. I think it's bad for the players. I'd much rather be making 15 million a year, a true 15 million every year for 5 years, and like I'm getting paid. Like no matter what happens, you can keep restructuring me and doing all these things. Money's my money. Like that's what it is. As opposed to 30 million a year, but I'm only going to make 12 after year one because it's not really what it indicates. So it's a bit of a balanced one there. I wonder if players will kind of start to realize. I believe Odigizua with the Cowboys, Albert Bridges had it. I think it was 4 for 84, something like that. Mike, 2 for 39, and he should have just. If he got franchise tagged, it would have been 20 something million in 1 year, and it's like really 3 years of $19 million to finish out his rookie deal, and in the first year of the extension. So like he got totally shafted. The agent gets to say, "Look, I got this guy 84 million, and he can tell people, but he's getting 19 million, not 84 million." And it's just like I just wonder if players and teams are obviously very smart. They're like, "Cool, dude, we're going to keep jacking that number up as high as you want it to be. That doesn't affect us because we're not going to give that money to you." I do wonder at some point if players start to go, "Nope, I want like this."
I want longer term security.
Josh is a great example. I think 80 or 90% of that deal is fully guaranteed. Josh didn't take 60. He, what's the extra 5 million? The real answer is that it's really 55 million every year. And he's really going to see that money, which is why it's a great deal for Josh Allen. It's a good deal for the Bills. They get to save a little off the top, but for Josh, it's great. So Josh might have been one of the first guys I've seen in a while that like didn't chase the top of the market. He did still top. I mean, he's the second highest paid quarterback, but he's getting paid, man. Like we used to talk about Tom. Tom was getting the full.
Oh yeah, Tom never lacked the money.
No, that's why like it's always
every time he restructured, he was getting more money on the back end. Like guaranteed.
Here's some more cash. No, you understand my point. Like I always Ron Russillo always uses this example, and I always go back to it. Colin Kaepernick, after the 1 year they beat the Packers, he signed a 7-year, $100 million extension. At the time, was nuts. It was a 1 year, $15 million deal. It's just always something to pay attention to, and just something I've noticed this year is like even more so. Like some of these AAV numbers are insane, and you look at the guaranteed money, and it's like, oh, it's a 2-year deal. Never mind.
Yeah, I'll finish with this. It's an excellent point because Milton Williams signs the 4-year, $104 million contract with the Patriots. The initial word was the guarantees were $63 million. And then Florio does a deeper dive in the contract when the details come out. And essentially what it is 2 years and $51 million.
Right. So now it's a great deal.
Now, and that's awesome. Like, again, life altering money. He was joking yesterday. We had a press conference in Foxborough on Thursday, and he was like, I thought winning the Super Bowl a couple of weeks ago was going to be the greatest moment of my life. But he's just smiling. He's like, I don't know, this might have to be it, and you get the largest contract in Patriots history. But you look at that big number and you go, oh my God, how can you pay a guy who's only played 44% of the snaps, $104 million? It's 2 years and $51 million. There's an injury guarantee heading into the third year, which again, like,
if he's good, who cares?
yeah, exactly. And most of these guys, almost all of them, I would love to see, like, it's a task they probably don't want to take, but for Spotrac or Jason over the cap, like, how many guys actually get to the end of the deals?
CJ Mosley, that's the craziest part. The Jets obviously released CJ Mosley.
Yep.
CJ actually fulfilled the 5-year, $85 million deal. It's insane. Last offseason, they redid the deal a little bit to add on an extra year because they didn't realize his body was going to break down like that. And I just remember thinking to myself, I'm like, holy crap! Like, he finished out the largest deal that, like, the largest linebacker deal by a wide margin. The Jets obviously had to overpay to get him out of Baltimore. He ended up being a great Jet. He was there with the Jets longer, but, like, he finished the deal. It's insane. Like, even baseball contracts and basketball, and baseball is obviously fully guaranteed. Usually they get bought out or traded or whatever. It's like the guys that finish the deal, you're like, no way. Like,
yeah, they are the rarity in this day and age. All right, that's going to wrap up this edition. We'll be back to begin next week. As a reminder, thank you, first of all, for watching, listening, subscribing, rate, review, tell your friends, help us continue to build the brand, help continue to support Prizepicks. He is Will Parkinson. I am Mike Giardi, and we will see you next week.